Geoff, how are you today?
What's up, fellas? What's going on? Good to talk to both of you.
Great to talk to you. I was worried there for a second. I saw the phone line freeze up me again. I was like, no, don't take this Geoff segment from me.
I know.
I want to get right to the conversation that we had all last week leading up to the game and now following the game, the offense, and what exactly it looks like. What is the biggest thing you took away from the first half to the second half with what changed with this offense?
You know, so I did a deep dive. I went back and looked at the All-22 yesterday, and I tried to figure out myself what was going on. And not to be cliche, it's really never one thing, but what I did in my research is I charted, there were 17 plays that the Eagles ran, not counting the kneel down before the half, between when they scored their touchdown in the first quarter after the Stafford interception, and then what I call the opening, the play that broke the dam, which was the 38-yard pass to A.J. Brown in the third quarter that then set up the touchdown to Dallas Goedert. And in those 17 plays, the Eagles netted 9 yards. I believe it was 4 straight 3-and-outs, might have even been 5. And what I noted that Saquon Barkley was either a ball carrier or a pass catcher on 10 of those 17 plays. And on first and 10, the first time, they tried to pass on first and 10 twice in a row. That didn't work. First time, Hurts rolled to his right, threw it out of bounds. Second time was that nice pass. I thought it was a nice under-center play action that you don't see the Eagles do a lot. He hit A.J. Brown, but just a tick too late so that when A.J. was catching the ball, he got hit by Quentin Lake in the back, and then he dropped the ball. And then from that point on, they were not going to throw the ball on first and 10 in that 17-play sequence. So I do feel like there was what A.J. Brown said, and even Jalen Hurts alluded to, a conservative approach there that was just way too Saquon Barkley reliant as both a ball carrier and a pass catcher. I mean, you can't have one guy touch the ball 10 times on 17 plays in both capacity on a day where nothing's happening for him. And I understand that the history last year, you want to give Saquon the ball. It almost felt like the Eagles believed he was going to pop one eventually, but it never happened. And then the byproduct of that, or it came at the expense of giving the ball to guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and functioning as an offense like they have in the past because they became so reliant on trying to get the ball to Saquon and pop one and not make a mistake in the process.
Well, Geoff, and this I think gets to a question that a lot of us have had since Sunday afternoon. Because they went up-tempo, it looked like Hurts was more the guy running things, at least on the outside, than maybe Patullo signaling things in. In watching the film, did you get a sense of how much was this Hurts directed or how much was this Patullo adjusting personnel packages and all that?
Yeah, I think that there's a misconception about no-huddle offense because there's really 3 varieties of it. You can run no-huddle, and the Eagles do this a lot, but you don't run a play immediately.
Right.
You know? The Eagles run no-huddle, but then they'll let the play clock go down. So there's plenty of time to get a play call in from the sideline when you're going no-huddle, which I didn't detect anything. And even if you do see a quarterback making a lot of discussions both at the line of scrimmage or looking to the sideline, it doesn't mean that they are not or that they are getting a play call from someone. There's a lot of dummy language in there, so it would just be complete speculation. But I just based on how the Eagles run their offense conceptually, I don't believe that any conspiracy theory that Patullo is not calling plays because the plays that they run and have ran are similar to what they've been running for years now. They are not a wide variety route tree type of offense, and they never have been. So when they go no huddle, there's times, Kev, that they do it because they're trying to keep the defense from subbing certain pass rushers on the field. Mm-hmm. But the Rams are not a team that plays like 7 or 8 different guys. They're not like a Jim Schwartz defense. They pretty much play their guys. So no huddle for them is just an opportunity to kind of get their quarterback and receivers and whole offense in a rhythm. And the reason why they did it more in the second half than the first is because they were ahead of the sticks by the time they started opening up the offense. In that 17-play sequence I was referring to, they had very few plays of 3 or 4 plus yards. So you can't go no huddle when you're at, 3rd and 15 and you're just going to hand the ball off to Saquon to get out of there.
So while we're on this conversation of where this goes, and we're talking to Geoff Mosher of Inside the Birds and Philly Voice, where do you see this going? You mentioned opening up this offense. Is this second half some sort of revelation for him, or are we going to be sitting here this time next week talking about, well, they took the conservative approach again, and, hey, maybe it works for them. Maybe we're talking about a 4-0 football team. Is this something that can actually jumpstart them taking a different approach offensively?
I think that one lesson they can learn is that you don't have to get Saquon Barkley going by running him, and that if you can get yourself an efficient passing offense to start with, that could actually help take some bodies away from Saquon. Almost thinking in reverse, because clearly the way they've been trying to do it, which is starting off with Saquon and then hoping that opens up their pass offense, hasn't worked very well. So you would like to see that adjustment. Jalen Hurts, we all know, isn't really comfortable throwing in between the hash mark, in between the numbers. But there's also a misconception on that. When your guys are wide open, he will. I mean, he's hit plenty of guys in between the numbers on specific routes that are designed against certain coverages to have guys open. And you saw that, whether it's a slant and AJ one-on-one or he had a nice deep dig to Devontae Smith for 16 yards on 3rd and 10. That was a beautiful progression read and a very important third down conversion at that time, because that set up the touchdown that would eventually put them ahead. So I don't think that there should be any fear. Now, every week is like you see a different type of defense. The Bucs, we all know, give Jalen Hurts and the offensive line and the Eagles in general a lot of fits, because Todd Bowles just wakes up out of bed thinking about how he's going to blitz and disguise a blitz. I mean, this guy, all he thinks about is ways to break down your offensive line protection schemes. So to me, that means that's a great opportunity to just sort of, like you said, get your short pass game going, get the ball out of his hands in 3 seconds, and don't let Bulls dictate. But they seem to really have trouble doing that.
Geoff, one of the things defensively I thought that was huge in that comeback, if you will, was it seemed like in the second half they did a lot of adjusting on the Rams running game. They got gashed in the first half. What did you see that kind of worked in the second half to shut down Williams and Corum?
Yeah, so I think there was a little bit of the element of surprise, and this is why I think Sean McVay is an excellent coach. He's really good. The Rams running game for the last 2 years, maybe 2.5, 3, has been built around running the ball inside, a lot like the way the Eagles do, running plays like duo or inside zone, which is basically, your interior offensive line is double teaming the tackles and just getting that push up the middle. That's the way the Rams operated the last 2 years, and Kyren Williams and Blake Corum were really good in between the tackles runners. And I felt like the biggest plays that the Rams made were on sort of what we call wide zone, or not necessarily outside zone like you see the 49ers do, but more running toward those bubbles in the B and C gaps, right? And they did a really good job of doing that. And then getting to the edges, I just don't think the Eagles expected some of those outside runs that you saw Corum and Williams be able to break. And then they definitely did a better job. You saw blitzing a lot from Vic. I think a lot of that was run blitzing as well, just getting extra defenders in the box and on the edges to seal them a little bit better and force the Rams to go back to running on the inside. And, of course, when they had to run inside on those 3rd and 4th downs in the second half, they were not successful.
Defensively, last week, we talked a lot about what it was going to look like in the secondary, and the next-gen stats were quite kind to Quinyon Mitchell in his matchup with Davante Adams. What stuck out to you going back and watching the performance of the defense from a secondary perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really long time. You guys both know this. It's been a really long time since we've talked about an Eagles corner who was so talented that he could shadow the best receivers in the league. I mean, when I say long time, I'm not talking about years. I'm talking about decades, right? I mean, maybe Eric Allen. So Alito and Sheldon were great. I don't really recall a lot though, Jim. Troy, yeah, but I don't know if those guys followed individual receivers as much, because even Jim Johnson was more of a you play your sides guy and do what you do. So I think it's really special. It's really fun to watch. It's been a long time coming, and the Eagles clearly hit on a guy who has a lot of physical talents, but also a lot of confidence and a lot of intelligence to be able to do that because he was asked to follow a guy in Davante Adams. And although Adams is static, he doesn't really move, the Rams offense itself moves a lot and there's a lot of motion. So it might look like Davante Adams is your outside number one receiver, say to the left side, but then all of a sudden they motion a receiver outside of him. And that changes what Davante Adams is in the rules of your defense. He might now be the number two on the inside because of that motion, even though he didn't move. And that meant Quinion had to kind of go and at times follow him and make sure his rules were correct. So it's not easy, but that's just how good Quinion has been, and Vic completely trusts him. I also think that's why Vic is blitzing more, which I'm writing about right now. It'll be out on Philly Voice later. Vic is blitzing at over 25%, which for him is like, this is the guy who's famous for never blitzing, not one time in the Super Bowl. He blitzed Stafford on 41% of his dropbacks, which is really high for Vic. But I don't think he would do that unless he really had the confidence that guys like Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean can handle the coverage.
Confidence in the coverage there, but in terms of the edge rushers they've got right now, it was interesting to see 3 edge rushers inactive for the game on Sunday. What does it say about his confidence in that group and the defensive front right now?
Yeah, he's not a high defensive end rotation guy to begin with. I mean, we all got used to Jim Schwartz being here and playing like 6 edge rushers and divvying up the snaps and the fresh legs approach. Vic's the opposite. And you saw that last year. He really only played 3 edges. Obviously, Brandon Graham getting hurt and Bryce Huff not being healthy fed into that. But, by the end of the year, even with the youth and experience, it was really just Josh Sweat, Jalen Hunt, and Nolan Smith. And right now it's Hunt, Nolan Smith, and, Zarius Smith is getting in there. And like you mentioned, Ojolari's been inactive. I don't think he's going to have a whole lot more than 3 guys in that rotation, no matter how healthy or how productive guys are, because that's just how he does it.
And is that sign, just going to the blitzing part of this, like for him blitzing more, is it just giving a different look, or is it the way he feels about his defensive front and their ability to get home?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ray. I don't know yet, and Vic is not the type to sit here and explain to you exactly when and why he does. And I was even going through last year's games and trying to figure out some kind of pattern of why he does what he does. Like in Week 15 against the Steelers last year, he didn't send a single blitz. In Week 16, so 1 week later, same defense, no injury that I can remember, he blitzed the Commanders at 33%. His top 5 blitz games last year were Cleveland, bad quarterback, 36.7%. Washington, good quarterback, 33%. Packers, Week 1, 32.4%. Week 4, Tampa Bay, 28%. And then Cowboys on their backup quarterback, I believe, they were at Week 17, 25.8%. I can't find the similarities of those 5 opponents or what was going on with the Eagles' defense at that time, because 2 of those games were before DeJean was the nickel, and then 3 of those games were after. So if you guys can crack the code, I'd love to know. Sometimes I think it's just a feel thing for him. And I thought last year the Eagles were pretty good in general at rushing the passer. And then again, and so his season average last year was 19%, really low. Maybe it is a sign that he's just not as confident right now in his edge group, and he's doing it higher. But it can also be the opponent. You're facing the Chiefs. You don't have any wide receivers you got to worry about. So the same team he threw 0 blitzes at in the Super Bowl, now he's just going after them. So it feels like each week there's a different reason. But for whatever it is, he's blitzing more this year than last year.
Should we read anything into the Keely Ringo comment this morning in your mind?
That was interesting. I don't know what to make of it, Kev, because I guess he told Keely, "Hey, you're gonna have an opportunity this year." So he's either trying to keep the kid's head into it and keep his confidence up, and saying if there's we're 1 injury away, or maybe 2, I suppose, from Keely getting back into the defense. But I mean, Ja'Cory Bennett is the first guy off the bench, so It really would have to be 2 injuries or like a dime package. I don't know. I just think he's trying not to lose the kid completely, but I really don't see too many pathways for Keely playing in this defense unless Adoree Jackson goes through a long period of struggling, or even a couple of games, and then Ja'Cory Bennett goes in and struggles as well, which I suppose is possible. It's not like either of these 2 guys are going to make the Pro Bowl this year, so we'll see.
We will see, Geoff. Always appreciate having you on. Thank you for making the time for us, and we'll talk to you again down the road.
Thanks, Mosh.
Hey, it's Ray Dunne from the Midday Show. Thank you so much for watching our content. If you want more videos, you can click right here. Or how about you subscribe right here so you stay in the know on all that's coming from 97.5 The Fanatic.